Damon Brew Show brought to you by Ike's Sandwiches, that guy right behind me. And what an interesting first round we've got right here going on right now. The Dallas Cowboys are officially putting their pick in. The Baltimore Ravens are on the clock, and that officially puts the San Francisco 49ers in the hole for this draft. They will not be making the Kansas City Chiefs the final pick in the draft because they just traded up with the Buffalo Bills to take Xavier Worthy, which is a name that was attached to the 49ers as early as today by Daniel Jeremiah. Still plenty of options out there for the 49ers. And what's been a wildly interesting first round, 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks, much less 6 quarterbacks in the first 6 rounds, 14 offensive players to start the draft. That is the longest run on offensive players, not only to begin a draft, but at any point in common modern draft history, for goodness sakes. And Tyler Guyton is officially now off the board, just got picked by the Dallas Cowboys. Baltimore Ravens are on the clock, and I'm going to tell you that Albert Breer is a good 4 or 5 minutes ahead of the broadcast right now. So if you're watching TV at home, I am going to tip the pick as soon as Albert Breer has it over here, so be ready for that. But right now, if you're the 49ers and you really wanted to attack the center of your offensive line, that is still very much an option for the 49ers right now. Jackson Powers Johnson, the best center in this draft. Zach Frazier, the other best center in this draft, are both there on the board for the 49ers should they be interested in. Nate Wiggins, who is a corner that a lot of people thought would be off the board by now, he is still out there. A couple of wide receivers. Well, one, Ladd McConkey, who we saw earlier. It was, I believe, Pete Schrager, who had Ladd McConkey going to the 49ers at 31. There's Cooper DeJean, the secondary help out of Iowa, the corner who is just a playmaker, and don't let that white boy fool you. He's a real athlete with NFL potential, no doubt about it. He is on the board still, unless the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, what's the Baltimore Ravens who are officially saying the pick is in? Let me see Albert Breer. What has he got? Let me refresh right now. The Ravens are taking Clemson cornerback Nate Wiggins. So it is official. The 49ers are on the board right now, and they are thinking about a lot of options. A few of them, no one expected to be there. Cooper DeJean was supposed to be like an automatic, like he's going to be gone to the Eagles by the time they pick. That didn't happen. Johnny Newton, again, the defensive tackle out of Illinois. Betting on the 49ers to look defensive tackle is never a bad bet at all when it comes to the draft. And look, Adonai Mitchell is a wide receiver out of Texas who is still on the board that we haven't talked much about. But if the 49ers were looking wide receiver, maybe that's an option. Kool-Aid McKinstry, the corner out of Alabama, is still on the board for the 49ers. What I can tell you right now is that Brandon Ayuk remains a 49er. So I'd be surprised to see this pick come up wide receiver for the 49ers. And the Ravens, again, the pick is in, the broadcast is behind. Albert Breer says it is Clemson cornerback Nate Wiggins. Albert Breer hasn't been wrong about a single pick yet so far. And so the 49ers are on the clock right now. If there's a phone call to be made, they're either making it to the player that they're about to pick, or they're actually open for business to maybe trade back at this moment. But I would be surprised because a few names that I don't think that they could have expected to be there are still there. So a very, very interesting draft is what we got. The first defensive player off the board didn't happen until 15. Well, Liatu Latu, the edge rusher out of UCLA. How about this? First offensive player in the draft, USC. First defensive player in the draft, UCLA. Too bad they don't play football in the Pac-12 no more. You know what I mean? 6 tackles in the first 20 picks in this draft. So there was the run on tackles and offensive linemen that we thought was going to happen. That did happen. The biggest surprises so far of this draft are the Raiders going tight end when they could have had any defensive player on the board. And Brock Bowers is a really interesting guy. But again, they've got Michael Mayer. So a little bit of a redundant pick there, and the first sort of atom bomb, if there was one dropped in the first round of this draft, it was when the Atlanta Falcons decided that right after signing Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million contract, they were going to select Michael Penix, which nobody really had in the cards. And that basically created the end of the run on quarterbacks early in this draft. So the Falcons made a play that nobody really expected. So the Niners haven't traded up, they haven't traded Ayuk, and as of right now, they haven't traded back. So let's see what they actually do. Baltimore is officially getting announced here by Roger Goodell up at the podium. Ravens have now learned what anyone following Albert Breer knew minutes ago, that it is indeed Nate Wiggins, Clemson. So the 49ers, tick tock, tick tock. The decision is now theirs. What will they do here for the draft? Let me just say thank you to everyone who is watching right now, who will be watching the rebroadcast of this. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, and please hit notify, and you won't miss a thing that we do. I'm going to be going live a little bit later with Larry Krueger. Of course, Wake Up with Larry Krueger happens at 8:30 a.m. Friday morning of round 2 of the NFL draft. And Larry and I are going to be live from the Dubliner starting at about 4 o'clock for round 2 and 3 draft coverage over a couple pints of Guinness. Dubliner West Portal is where you're going to find Larry Krueger and I if you want to come on out for a soda pop on a Friday afternoon to see what the 49ers do with the 63rd overall and the 94th overall pick of this draft. Again, it's been an absolutely fascinating first round. Historic in terms of quarterbacks coming off the board, tackles going off the board, how long it took us to find a defensive player off the board. Awful lot of good stuff. I see Red Jet out there saying like and subscribe. Thank you very, very much. Look, Ayuk is still a 49er as of right now. And I really do believe this first round comes to a close. I don't think they're moving Ayuk for a day 2 asset, and I think that the real getting to work on a contract extension will begin in earnest for the 49ers front office. Remember, George Kittle told Ayuk today, look, when you're sitting on that 5th-year option, the 49ers move at their own pace. Just be patient. You're not the kind of player they want to walk away from really at any price. That's how important he is to the 49ers. So Brandon Ayuk remains. I believe that is a very, very good thing. I do. Refresh. Albert Breer, not tipping. We got 3 minutes, and I'm just going to tell you that any single time it took Albert Breer this long to tip the pick, there was usually a little business being done. It took a while for picks earlier in this draft to come in around the Jacksonville Jaguars trade. They came in, no, it wasn't the Jaguars where things started slowing down a little bit. Minnesota trading, the New York Jets trading, that sort of slowed down Albert Breer's parade of information. So you know so much about me. So here we go. We will see what the 49ers do. It'll be a matter of moments. If I had to make a guess, and I am sick and tired of guessing what this draft pick could be, Cooper DeJean, to me, is the secondary help that the 49ers are looking for. Not only do you get a guy who's a starting corner, you get a guy who can play the slot, and you also get a guy who I think can go back and give you safety help as well. He's versatile. You might be able to even use Cooper DeJean in a return game. Now that we've seen the actual process of kickoffs being converted into something new this coming season, maybe a guy like Cooper DeJean even fits some 49ers plans in that regard. But he's a player that everybody assumed would be off the board by now. So we will see. Again, Newton, the defensive tackle out of Illinois, is there. Kool-Aid McKinstry is there, the corner from Alabama. A&M linebacker senior Edrin Cooper is there, and Ladd McConkey, the wide receiver from Georgia that, again, Peter Schrager's really high on. He didn't have the production rate in his senior year in terms of touchdowns, but he's got all kinds of wiggle on his game. He's a hell of an athlete, just a real kind of dog. Imagine if Christian McCaffrey were exclusively a wide receiver. I think you get a lot of Ladd McConkey out of that. So we will see what we got here. We refresh once again. And Albert Breer, what are you going to tell us, buddy? Boy, still nothing. They say that the pick is in, but Albert Breer hasn't tipped a thing, which is the first time that the TV has said a pick is in without Albert Breer being all over it. So congratulations to the 49ers, who are milking this for every little bit of drama that they possibly could out of this first pick, the 31st overall of the draft. Again, Damon Bruce, if you're new here, please hit like and subscribe. It's wonderful to have you. We're going to be doing bios on every single player drafted, but we had to break in here with a little live emergency show brought to you by Ike Sandwiches to see what the 49ers do here in round one. Yes, I am stalling. And wow, here is a name that we have not used at all. Albert Breer is saying that the 49ers are taking Florida wide receiver Ricky Pearsall. This is not a name that we discussed really at any length, shape, or form in this draft. Ricky Pearsall is someone who has sort of just fallen into the wayside of evaluation. He is, let's just see, final mocks had him projected, Kansas City Chiefs. Someone had him going at number 45 to the New Orleans Saints. But with a pick of Ladd McConkey out there, with a pick of the other wide receiver from Texas still out there, it is going to be Ricky Pearsall. 98 catches, 1,626 yards, and 9 touchdowns over 2 years at Florida. He transferred in from Arizona State. Okay. We've seen the 49ers take flyers on wide receivers that they convinced would pop. Dante Pettis, anybody, and it hasn't exactly worked. So we'll see if this is the player that will actually pop. But it's not Xavier Legette. It's not a number of the players that we had been talking about. It's not the center to solidify, against a division. I mean, Seattle took a defensive tackle, Brian Murphy out of Texas. The Rams took Florida State defensive end Jared Verse. The Cardinals took Marvin Harrison Jr. very early on in the first round to come back to take Darius Robinson. So there is lots of pressure coming towards the 49ers just in their division opponents alone. Ricky Pearsall of Florida is the pick. Okay, Ricky Pearsall. What do you got for us here, Ricky? Ricky Pearsall, not the name anyone. I'm talking about anybody who covers the 49ers has been seeing. I'm really surprised. Really surprised. His age, by the way. The Steelers looked at him and said his age is a positive thing. How old is he? He's 72 years old. No, I'm just kidding. He's not 72 years old. But he's 24. He's going to be 24 at the start of September. So he's no spring chicken. Runs a good route. I mean, you better if you're about to be drafted by an NFL team. But Ricky Pearsall is the pick. Okay. Was not expecting to see Ricky Pearsall's name. I mean, we've been talking about this draft for a month. We have talked about all the different moving parts and who it could be, who it might be. Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall. Hey, just because Larry and I haven't been talking about him, just because a single 49er beat writer hasn't even written his name down not once yet, doesn't mean he isn't going to be a good player. We don't know. But it feels like this is a pick that you could have had in day 2. It feels like this is a pick that wasn't rumored to go flying off the board. He wasn't exactly on anybody's best available list as this draft is actually playing out right now. So, okay. Ricky Pearsall is the pick. It's a surprise. Let's be out and out honest. It is absolutely a surprise. A write-up on NFL.net. Pearsall's a loose, smooth wide receiver with outstanding hands and toughness, quick on his release. He understands How to change gears as a route runner? Fluid. That's good. You want your wide receivers fluid. He tacks the ball well at the high point, makes some circus catches, good after the catch, but not exactly a yak yard leader. Had a very good Senior Bowl. Starting for day one is what they're saying. A day one starter. Okay, good. You better get a day one starter. Ricky Pearsall is the pick of the San Francisco 49ers. Well, that gives us a little bit of an interesting bit of homework to do before we get ready to talk about this with any authority. Because really, this is just certainly not what anyone who talks about this team on a full-time basis was expecting. Maybe even a wide receiver, but it didn't feel like they'd go wide receiver unless Ayuk were moved. Interesting to say the least. Interesting to say the least. So, before we can praise it, before we can damn it, I can say this. The 49ers are going to get a questionable draft grade. Not that those matter early on in any draft analysis, but this is a little interesting to say the least. A little interesting to say the least. No one's going to boo this pick. Maybe Ricky Pearsall is going to go down as the greatest Caucasian wide receiver in NFL history. Who knows? But there you go. I really thought that offensive line help. Another defensive lineman would have made an awful lot of sense, or someone to help that secondary out would have made more sense than a wide receiver that, as it happens, feels quite like a player that they could have moved around into the second round and gotten, could have maybe moved back, pick up a few picks, and picked him up earlier in the second round. But welcome to San Francisco, Ricky Pearsall. Who would have thunk it? Again, please hit like and subscribe. Continue to hit notify. Going to be live a little bit later with Larry Krueger in a roundtable to talk about this pick. Certainly one that nobody expected. Anyone pretending that they had this one on their board is absolutely pretending. I didn't see Ricky Pearsall's name mentioned in a single mock draft as a first-round selection by anybody, but that doesn't mean that the mockers are right. It also doesn't mean that the 49ers got this right either. Skeptical. Skeptical to say the least. Skeptical to say the least is how we meet Mr. Pearsall for the very, very first time. I see we have a new member. Miles, welcome to the initiated. It is wonderful to have you. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, and hit notify, and you will know not only when I go live later tonight with Larry and company, when Larry and I do a wake-up for you starting at 8:45 Friday morning, West Coast time, and then we will be live from Dubliner West Portal around 4 o'clock. Be checking in with you, having a few beers with you, hopefully hanging out in person with you if you can make it to West Portal in San Francisco. And if you can't, we'll all be online together a few times as the second and third round roll out. Remember, the 49ers, as it stands right now, have Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, pick number 63, which is the 31st pick of the second round, and pick number 94, also the 31st pick of the third round. Picks number 124, 132, and 135 will come up in day 3 in the fourth round. But to all of you who have joined me earlier today, made yourself all the way back here, thank you very, very much for popping on in and popping on. And I can only tell you that we will have much more for you throughout the draft, throughout the summer, leading into next football season. Hopefully you make Damon Bruce Plus channel part of your daily habit and routine. Thank you so very much for being here tonight. Appreciate your good time. It's precious time that you could spend anywhere, and you spend it with me, and I do appreciate that. Make sure you download the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. You can find the Damon Bruce Show. In the meantime, Ricky Pearsall, welcome to San Francisco. We're going to get to know you now, and hopefully everything works out. But a shocker for the 49ers to wrap up the first round of the NFL draft. Ricky Pearsall. Okay. Good luck with that. Sports don't build character, my friends. They reveal it. Bye-bye.